Assalamu alaikum. This is Mohammed Rameez and you are watching Flutter Fluency. So today we are going to talk about API calls. So this is one of the feature and functionality which we are going to discuss in Flutterflow. So in the previous videos we have already covered a lot of topics. We have covered setting panels, theme panel, then we have covered about custom code panel, media panel. Okay, then we have covered the app state panel, and we have covered data schema panel. So in the future videos you will be able to see the connect panel of Firebase. So we are gonna learn how we can use Firebase and all the topics related to the Firebase in Flutterflow. So what I'm planning to right now to create a video on this option API calls. So you can also use APIs into your Flutterflow application. So let's talk about what are APIs specifically and why we need to use APIs, not a backend. So basically, let's suppose you have created your front end of your weather application. So there are the two things you need to do. Okay, one thing is if either you have your own database where you have your weather data, like what would be the prediction of tomorrow's temperature, what would be the prediction of tomorrow's weather and yesterday weather, and something like that. So all of the data is basically saved in your database backend. So either you need to use that backend, or you can also use if you want to use backend and you don't know about backend, so you can use backend by existingly created backend. So what I mean is that open weather or echo weather has already created their backend, and you need to get the information of backend information into your application. So you can simply extract their API and use into your project, and you can start showing the results into your front end. So basically how we can create API calls, let's talk about. So for that reason I have opened Rapid APIs platform. So here you can see that this is a Rapid API where you will be able to see around 400k APIs. So most of the APIs are free. So if you want to use any API for your work, so you can also use, you will be also able to see weather API here if you can search here. So let's talk about how we can create API calls and how we can use APIs. So basically, first thing is, if you want to import your API, so you can also import the API, but for that reason you need a paid plan, because in the free plan you will be only able to access or only able to create 2 APIs in the free plan, but for the pro plan you will be able to create unlimited APIs. Okay, so now you can use to search your API if you have a lot of APIs here. First thing first, we need to click on add. Okay, so you will be able to see two options. First option is create API group, and second option is create API call. If you have an independent API, so you can use independent API separately by using create API call. But if you have a group of APIs, let's suppose let's suppose if I'm talking about this platform. So basically this is an API to fetch a LinkedIn data basically. So what this API can do, this API can you can see that this API can get personal profile data. This API can detect activity time of user. This API like this API group, this is a group API basically having multiple APIs. Okay, so this can also get the profile by sales nav URL. So there is a one thing which you can see in this API section. Here you can see that the URL. Okay, so you can see this URL is like fresh LinkedIn profile data.p.rapidapi.com. So if I go to any other API, here you can see that this is another API. So there we have a similar URL, and if I go to any other API, so we will be able to see the same URL here, and the endpoints are different obviously. Okay, so so we are gonna create, firstly we are gonna create the simple API, independent API, then we are gonna use the API groups, and there you will be able to see that why is it important to use groups, because we don't need to create this URL again and again in the group API group. Okay, so let's create the first API which is our which will get the profile data of LinkedIn. So this API can get the profiles from LinkedIn. Okay, So how we are gonna use this thing? So let's create API call first. So you can see that new API call is created. So first of all, you need to add a name. So let's suppose the name of my API is the same, fresh LinkedIn profile data. So this is the profile name, and then I'm gonna here you can see that so first thing is that you need to make sure that your client is CURL, because using curl request you will be able to easily extract the data. So let's suppose you have your request type is post, so I'm gonna make it to post. So let's change it to the post, and now we need API URL. Okay, so let's copy the API URL, which is this. So let's copy this. Here you can see URL, and you can simply paste it here, and then we need headers. Okay, because after creating API URL, we need headers, then we need body, because this is a post request. So if your request type is post, so you must need to add a body. Okay, post request means that your body contain specific data. Okay, so there are basically multiple kinds of requests. No, first of all, the first one is get request. So get request only get the only fetch the data and show it to you. Let's suppose if you have let's suppose if I'm talking about weather API. So weather API can, what the weather API can do, so weather API can fetch that current data, current weather data. So you can simply hit the request, and when you hit the request, so it will throw the data of today. Okay, so it will not take any parameter or something like that. But if you want to pass a specific date, and you want to check the weather of that specific date, so you must need to use post request, because in that way you must need to pass any specific parameter, and then you will be getting the result of that data. Otherwise, on the get request you will not be able to send any variable in the body section of Flutterflow panel on the API. And the delete request is basically used for deleting the data. And put request is basically used if you want to add anything into your existing data. So it's basically like of add. Okay, and patch data, so patch, what the patch data can do, so patch data can delete the existing data into the database and add the new data which we are sending. So basically it's kind of post request. It's kind of combination of post and delete request. So it will, we are sending the post, we are sending the data into the patch request, and when the data is hit, when this API is hit, so it will delete the existing data and post the new data which we are passing. Okay, so but most commonly use get and post request. Okay, so now let's add the headers first. So for that reason, you can see that there are three headers, 1, 2 and 3. So first of all, we need to pick this header, copy this one and paste it into this section, and then add request again and 3. So let's go back and copy this header, paste it here, and there we also need, so copy, paste it here. Okay, so let's the headers are now done. So now we only need to add a body now. Okay, so for that reason, for the body section we can add JSON format. Okay, so how can I know? Because you can see that this is my data, and data is starting and closing with the curly brackets. So this is a JSON format. So let's copy this data and remove these brackets and paste it here, and now click format. So you can see that if I scroll down, so the data is formatted. So here you can see why we need post request, because we are hitting the API call and we are saying that okay, my keyword is marketing, geo code is this, and data posted is anytime. So we are basically passing the variables or filters to search results. Okay, so let's add call now. So let's see if we have, so everything is done. We have added the headers, we have added body. We will be talking about variables just in a couple of seconds, and also the advanced settings. So let's first of all, let's hit the API response. So you can simply click on response and test, and you can hit test call, API call. Okay, so here you can see it's loading and now it's done. So we are getting the data of multiple the multiple people's So these are the profiles. So this person is belongs to Microsoft, and this is his LinkedIn profile, company logo, job URL, and other things. Salary. So its salary is basically from 11.2 thousand dollar per year to $12,000 per year, and that these kind of things. So you can see that there are multiple records that we are getting. So now what we need to do, so the first thing, the better thing is that you can create your data type. So how can you create your data type? Simple as it is, you can simply copy one section. Okay, copy this section, and now you need to go to your data schema and paste here. Here you can simply type profile and add the JSON format, and now create. So you can see that all of the variables are now created in the JSON format. Now go back to the API section and response. So we again hit the test response, and we have one error which is custom function, so it's fine. Let's okay, so now what we need to do, we need to create a data type which will taking a data kind of variable, and a list of profile models, because we have already created profile data type. So we are going to create list of profiles. This is one thing. And if we go down, so yeah, we also need to have a message and the totals. So we don't need message variable, we can simply create data and total is integer, and data is list of profile. So maybe we can say that the data type name is um, profiles, LinkedIn profiles data. Okay, so now create. Now first thing we need is data variable with profile. So data type, then we need to add a profile, and these profiles are list of profiles. Okay, so create. Okay, we can also create message is basically a string. Create, and then we need to add a total, which is integer. Create. So these three things are now created. So let's go back to our API call, response and test, and here we can simply hit test request. And you can also see that in the header section you can see your headers. In the body section, the data you are passing, you can also see that data. And response and test, you will be getting your all the results. Okay, so now we have already created our data type, so we can parse the data into the data type. So we can pick LinkedIn profile data, and this is not a list, because here you can see that this is a single entity, and it is not a list. And the data is basically a list which we have already created in our data type. And if I go down, so yeah, total is created and message is also created. So now the data type parsing is also done, so we only need to save this request. And if you don't want to parse the data into the data type, so you can also use it in another way. How can you use that thing? Let's suppose you want to show your maybe yeah, so maybe you want to show this data list, so you can simply add JSON path, because this data list can only contain. So you can see that edit JSON path, update, no. Okay, so we only want to preview. Yeah, so here you can see that this data uh, path is only containing the list of profiles. It's not containing the message and the data, because we have extracted the specific data portion which we have here. Okay, so we have extracted this portion from the API request. Okay, so you can add the name, maybe you can say that profile list. Okay, and you can save it here, but I don't want to save this thing because I have already created my own data type. So yeah, let's see. Okay, so let's close this thing. Okay, so my data is now parsed here, and this is done. So what I can do, so let's create a front end to show you how we can do these things. Okay, so now you there is a one more thing we need to do. So this is a API call, and if you click here dynamic query, because we have the list of data profiles in the data section, so we can extract the data section here. So this is data section, this is a list of models, so we are going to use this model. And if you want, you can use list map items, otherwise it's totally fine. Confirm, and here you can see profile list. Now you will be able to see the dynamic query. Okay, so now dynamic query is done. So now you can wrap the data. So let's wrap this thing. Profile, not a data type, and then we can simply add Microsoft company name, and then we can also add the default value, which is unset. Here you can say unset. Okay, so now the application is running, and here you can see that the data that we have set is now visible, and we can scroll the data and we can see that all of the data is now there, and people are from Microsoft company. Okay, so but this data is basically coming from the API. So but there is a question which is in your mind, obviously, that okay, so we have set the keyword of marketing fixed, but we don't want to fix that keyword. Let's suppose we want to pass any specific our own variable and our own keyword, and based upon that keyword we can search the data. How can we do it, and how can we achieve that thing? So for that reason there comes a variable. So you can add simple a variable, and the main variable may be keyword. Okay, and the type should be string, and default value, maybe we can say that, yeah, default value is marketing. So default value is basically when you don't enter any keyword. So let's save it, and now you can see that here you can simply remove the marketing, and you can drag from the top to bottom the place where you want. So you can simply add your keyword here, and you can also change the geo code if you want using the variable. Okay, so you can replace it. So that's how you can map your data. That's how you can create your data. And here you can see that this is an ID 1039. For that reason we will be able to see only Microsoft jobs. So if you can change this ID, if you know what the ID is of a company, so you can change it, but I don't know, that's why I can leave it as same as it is. So yeah, let's hit save, and now let's test it out. So you can see that we have a keyword, and now here I can add engineering maybe. So now we are expecting to get the data of engineers from Microsoft. Okay, so yeah, the data is now there, and we can see that yeah, we can see that there are a lot of engineers here, which we can see. So all of the we are getting the profile of all the engineers here. You can see that engineer, mechanical engineer, and yeah, so these are all of the engineers. So we are getting the profile of all the peoples that is on LinkedIn with Microsoft, and their profile belongs to engineering. Now you can basically add variables and make your API dynamic by adding variables. So yeah, if you go back to your front end, and here you can simply add the variable in your API call. So you can, so let's open my API call, and here you can simply add a variable. So you can see that we have a keyword, and here you can simply add engineering. Now we will be able to get the engineering data for sure. So let's wait for a second, and now here is, you can see, so you can see that all of the persons are engineers: environmental engineer, account, and this person is from Qatar, Denmark, India, software engineering manager. So these are all of these are engineer that belongs to Microsoft. That's how you can simply fetch the API call. So yeah, now the last topic which we have to discuss is about group API. Okay, so let's suppose you want to use a group API because you also want to add another API. So you can simply add a group API, and now now we can add a group name. So maybe we can say that LinkedIn APIs. This is my group API name, and the base URL, which is also known as host. So you can see that this is the host, and now here I can add my headers. So let's go back and see what my headers are. So my headers are simple, that we have put into the previous. So let's go back, but before I'm gonna save at group and copy these headers. So copy that one, add header, paste it here, okay, save, and go back, copy, back to my API, add headers, save, go back, copy my header, go back, paste it here. Yeah, so that's done. So now let's save it, and now we can simply add our API. So we don't need to add headers again and again, base URL again and again. We can simply add our endpoints. Okay, this is all set up. And if you also want to add group variables that you are going to use across all the APIs, so you can also add group variables, but I don't want to use. So let's suppose I'm going to add the second API. So I'm going to click add API call into the group section. So I can set that, okay, my API is get at this point because I want to use my get personal profile API, which is get, and the endpoint I have already added. Only thing I need to add is this. Okay, so this is basically a get request URL. So I'm gonna paste that, call this name, so get profile, and here I'm gonna add endpoint of this. So this is good, and now you can see that there are a lot of things that is already wrapped inside get request. Okay, but one of the thing is LinkedIn URL. So we are gonna pass our own LinkedIn URL here, so we don't need to pass this URL. So let's suppose I want to uh, remove this one, okay, this URL. And if I scroll back, so here we need I'm thinking to add my own variable. So how can you add your variable into the search bar or the link? So you need to add square brackets. Okay, so it's gone. So let's copy again and paste it here. Okay, so let's paste. Oh, it's not working. Invalid URL. Cancel, open, add request, endpoint, paste. Okay, add call and add get profile, and now add request. And now I can simply change the URL which I don't want. So let's suppose I'm gonna add my variable, which is URL, which is a string. Save, and now I don't want to pass this URL here. Okay, from clicking from here to scrolling more till here. Okay, so I can add square, and I am adding. Okay, so oh, sorry, okay, I understand. Yeah, okay, now it's fine. So in this square brackets I'm gonna add my URL keyword. So URL would be picking and adding here. So include skrill and other tabs we don't want. So it's done. Save, and let's check it out. Is this API works or not? Okay, so other things are good, other things are really good. So let's pick my LinkedIn profile URL and see is it work or not. So let's view profile, copy my URL and paste it here. Okay, so let's search my LinkedIn profile. Okay, so here you can see that my data is coming, which is 100% correct. And this is all about my profile, company, description, domain, activities, and here is my name. So I can show you. This is my company's. Yeah, exactly. This is 100% true data. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you into the next video.